For those who missed it, my name's Pip, and I'm the founder of Premier Team Building. A few little facts about myself. I've been doing this for over 22 years now throughout Canada and here in Australia. Love dogs. I have a much better half, my wife Taryn. I'm rationally afraid of children. I am a giant nerd. I am Batman, and I do not have a coffee addiction. I can stop if I want. I just don't want to, and I cannot sit still. Here are a few of the clients that we at Premier Team Building have had the opportunity to work with over the past few years. Repeat clients such as Adobe, the Defence Force, New South Wales Government, and a few different varieties as well. So I've got a fair bit I want to cover through today. So pretty much why Premier Team Building? When I moved to Australia, I discovered that there was a big lack in actual result-driven team building programs. The services being offered for organizations to develop their teams were very empty. What they were being sold on were flashy, big showy things. Let's, do all these fun, fancy, amazing race-like things that actually provide zero benefit to an organization. And it was tarnishing what team building really is. So I started Premier Team Building because I wanted to do team building right. I wanted to ensure that when someone invests within their team, they're actually going to experience a quantifiable benefit to the organization by targeting some actual skills. And to understand that, we need to kind of understand what is team building. There's a big, long explanation here, but in essence, team building is something that's going to actually change some tangible skills within your workforce, such as communication, problem solving, resource management, all these factors that are actually going to generate you revenue in the long term. So that's what team building actually does. Typically, it's done through fun and games or workshops, but team building is going to actually help you develop your team. So it's really important that when you're looking or talking to someone about team building, to understand what they've done in the past to see whether or not they've done something that has value. The pub and such, that's not team building. It's more of a bonding experience, which I will touch on shortly as well. A lot of people think that they can do DIY team building events. And there's a little bit to be said about DIY services. But if we look at what's involved in creating a team building program, you've got someone on your team and they have their job. It's 100% of their effort. You're paying them to deliver you the goods on their job. Then you say, hey, help me do a team building activity for the staff. Well, then all of a sudden, you've now taken their job and given them down to 20%. Because what's required for a proper team building activity is you got to choose the event, there's food, there's designing the program, researching to ensure that what you're doing is actually going to be beneficial. You got prizes, resources, seek approval, find venues. There's all this additional work that's involved to actually organize a team building program. So while you might see someone say, hey, I'm not going to pay that $5,000 team building activity, I'll get someone internally to do it myself. They're not doing their job. That means all the regular things that they're doing to actually bring you money is being hindered for an extended period of time. If it takes you a month to finalize all this, you have someone who's only doing 20% of their typical workload, and that's going to affect your bottom line versus saying, hey, you do it, we do it, and we do it all. You turn up on the day, your entire team's working to their best capability all that time, and then you start seeing those actual results because we have the professional skills to do that. Otherwise, it might look like you're saving money, and this is what a lot of people do because it seems cheaper, but you're actually reducing that person's workload and making some pretty big impacts to what's going on in the team itself. So if you ever hear someone say, we'll do it ourselves, kind of point out the fact of all these additional things that's required and who's going to do that work and who's going to do that person's work when they're not doing their regular job itself. So money talks. As I mentioned earlier, studies show that for every one person a company loses, they can expect to lose $20,000 to $60,000 for every one person. Where we get those figures from is you need to create a job ad. Someone has to review that job ad, post a job ad, review applications, interviews, discuss candidates, job offers, induction, training. If it takes them 3 months to get to the actual point that they're fully self-sufficient, you may have been out 1.5 to 2 people during that entire duration. Because you've lost one person, then someone else has to once again reduce their typical output to handle all these additional responsibilities. And if that takes you 3 to 6 months, you've been down all those individuals. So financially, team building is to help organizations reduce staff turnover, improve the productivity in the services that the team's delivering, so we can help save organizations this much money. And I can tell you that we definitely do not charge $60,000 for any one singular event at this point in time. So, when people start looking at what team building events cost, they are very cost effective when we start looking at how much you will lose for an individual when they decide to leave the organization. I once worked for a company that neglected all their team development, and within 6 months they lost 6 different managers from 3 sites around the state. So they neglected to do anything that would have cost them maybe 10 grand for their few hundred staff, and they lost pretty much all their key managers. And it took them months upon months to find new people that could actually do the job. So it wasn't all that financially smart of a decision to not do something that was going to actually, give them some measurable results. Now, one of the big things people want to know is, how do I quantify what my culture needs? How do I know how I can best service my team to support them? So there's all these different things that we offer. We always recommend, for those looking to do a serious development, to start with a 360 review. A 360 review, Declan does something very similar within his organization as well. It's where we get everybody's feedback on how they feel, they think, their beliefs, whether they're looking to leave, whether they're looking to stay, if they feel supported. And through this review, we get everybody's anonymous feedback that allows us to then start developing culture plans. This is like a business plan, but revolves around your company's culture to help you make those plans moving forward, but the individuals you want, the things you want to put in place to actually help grow your organization. This sets the foundation of actually building a culture for the long term so that you can start making some actual measurable changes. Then start looking to some result-based programs. Now, you'll probably hear us say result programs frequently. Result-based programs are something that's going to give you a result. If you are struggling with your resource management, we'll come into your workforce and perhaps do a Lego program that has minimal supplies. And your team has to liaise with one another to effectively reach an end goal by managing all their resources. Through that, they're going to understand the importance of communicating across different departments about how they have to plan ahead, how they have to manage the resources they have. They might have to put their own personal goals aside to meet the actual desired outcome of the client. Because it doesn't matter how good you look, if the client's not happy, you still lose. So result programs are where you're going to get the most benefits moving forward. We also have workshops for those who are looking for a more in-depth, strip back the funnel a little bit and get straight to the point, and really helping organizations understand how they can make those measurable changes, be it a leadership excursion we do, one of our retreats. A lot of the big topics these days is helping my team become more productive. Usually that means I want more money for my staff doing a lot less. So we need to find ways to change the workplace culture to understand how we can improve productivity. And we can do that through our workshops. And then repeat. Team building, building culture, and all these things, it's not a one singular thing. There is, it's like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym once and get strong. You don't go to the dentist once, your teeth are fine. You need to go on a repeating basis to maintain excellence. When you neglect this, that's when your team will begin to break down. When everything's fine, you can think you can coast along. If you ever coast a vehicle, it slows down over time, just like your culture. So whenever someone says, my team's great, I always like to ask them, so what are you doing to maintain that? And that's the question where a lot of people is like, oh, I'm not doing anything to actually retain my excellence. And that's where these programs and services can help individuals by keeping their team operating at peak performance. Because once you're on top, someone always wants to take you down. I've gone through a fair bit, which is my goal today, but everyone says there's no formula to cracking how to build culture. But there is. This is how you apply it. Positive or negative action over time, repeated indefinitely, that is how you build culture. If you do good things to your individuals over time and you continue doing it, you have a positive culture. You do bad things, neglect, you don't listen to people, you put yourself first, over time, repeat that, you're going to have a bad culture. Culture, when we break it down to a formula like this, is quite simple to do. It's whether or not people are willing to put the time in and repeat that action over time to see the positive growth that they can actually have. One of our top packages that we offer that encompasses all these different services is our maintenance plan. Rather than us walking once into a company and say, hey, let's do an amazing, program where we're going to build cars out of mouse traps and improve all these skills, and then we walk away and come back 12 months later, our maintenance plan has us working with an organization over a 12-month at least period. They do include our 360 plans and programs every quarter, or additional services the higher up you go, such as our leadership coaching and different services, to ensure that the 12 months as you go through, the team is successful and you have ongoing positive growth. Like I said, going to the dentist, you go to the mechanic, you go to the chiro, you go to the gym. These are all things we do on the regular basis to mitigate breakdowns and failures. Our maintenance plan is the same thing. It allows us to work with a team to ensure that we can get ahead of any problems, adapt as we need, see if there's a problem, address it, and make improvements as we go along to ensure we have people operating at their peak state. So these are some of the different things that we ourselves offer. As I mentioned, we have our 360 reviews, our culture plans. We do result-driven team events. We have our team management, our event management services, retreats as well. We're currently in the process of partnering with a very large outdoor muddy activity to do some pretty epic new survivor challenges as well. So if you have any ideas, you'll see that coming up in the next little bit on our socials. But these are all the different areas that we're able to assist. The 360 plan is a great way to expose people to what their team actually feels they need, and then we can start making plans to help them along the line. Some people aren't willing to invest on a singular event, and a 360 review is a great way for them to understand how their team truly feels. It's anonymous, and we love it when people tell us exactly how they feel, because I have enough friends, and if I upset a boss because their team's unhappy, I'm okay with that. And any questions before I show a quick little video that kind of summarizes a bunch of the different programs that we offer? All right, let's see if this plays for us. There we go. So that video kind of showcases a few of our different programs, and they are encompassed in fun activities. We do this because I like to lie to people and trick them into switching off and focusing on the fun aspect. And by doing that, they begin to reveal their behaviors and their thoughts about how they feel and think about the workforce. Some of those challenges we see people leaning out. I can tell how they feel about the security and safety of their team members, whether they believe the team's going to actually support them. The program with all those dominoes, that's all about sending and receiving information, whether or not people are willing to put aside their personal goals for the benefit of the team, whether they're willing to support other departments to ensure global success. So while it looks like those big events are just fun and games, there's actually a lot of psychology that goes behind it to ensure that the organizations can walk away with something measurable and can make a positive change within their workforce. That's all my time for today. And if you have any questions, I'd love to have a one-to-one with any of you afterwards. Thank you.